stumped him. He stumped him. He stumped him. Nice block. Wow. Great penetration. Surge through the middle of that Michigan State. First and goal. Yeah. Outstanding play.
Good evening, everybody. This is Brian Musalam, your co-host, alongside my co-host, Jason Strayhorn. Jason, how you doing today?
I'm feeling fantastic. You know, look, all of us true Spartans were a little upset at the loss that happened over the weekend, Brian. But, you know, I've had some time to digest things and understand now that, you know, we're going to be okay. We're going to be just fine. How about you?
I'm fantastic. I mean, today's, you know, you start a new week, and it's on to Maryland, and, you know, it's a 24-hour rule, just like everything else. I mean, you talk about preaching, practicing what you preach. Coach talked about we're moving on, we're moving forward, and it's all our goals are still in front of us. And if I would have told you this, if I would have said to you in August that we're going to be 8-1 heading into the 10th game of the season, having beaten Michigan, what would your thoughts have been?
Ecstatic. I'd be ecstatic, just like the rest of Spartan Nation, because not many of us or any of us believed that that's what the horizon for this team was going to be before the season actually started. But lo and behold, here we go, and we're 8-0, and expectations change over time as, you know, wins keep piling up. The pressure mounts more. You got a Heisman Trophy candidate. You got a lot of things happening, but I think the injuries, you know, start to pile up, and you go into a West Lafayette, a Purdue team who's known for spoiling top 3, top 2 teams in the history of Purdue. Like, they're the best team at spoiling top-ranked opponents in the country, in the history of college football. And look what happened. They did it again.
So, I mean, you know, you saw Michigan State, obviously everybody watched the game, and we all saw some of the flaws. And Purdue exposed us defensively. I mean, they came out, and this wasn't a trap game. Let's not kid ourselves. Everybody knew, every Spartan knew that this is an offense that is very potent in the air, and they were going to try and exploit some of our weaknesses.
536 yards potent?
536 yards passing, and you know, I mean, we all knew what was coming, and really it came down to execution. When you were up in that booth and you were broadcasting that game, did you see anything differently this game that you normally see?
You know, what I saw was, you know, there were players that were on the field that seemed to, you know, suck it up from a week ago. I mean, I watched the performance. Obviously, all eyes on number 9, K9, Kenneth Walker III. As you see him right here, turn the corner, and there was no drop-off there. He looked like he came ready to play, but what surprised me and shocked me was the first time he fumbled, I think all season long. Never seen him fumble before, and he did that in the opening drive. Not really an indictment on his talent level.
I actually thought his knee was down, to be honest. I mean, it was
we begged for replays, and we couldn't get them.
It was hard to reverse that call. If they would have called him down, it would have been the same call stands. So it could have gone either way. But you know, I think when you watch this game, and you know our defense has been bend but don't break philosophy all year, and that we rely on pressure up front, and we especially rely on our red zone defense. I mean, that's really what we really rely on, that when we get down into the red zone, we tighten up. And I believe, you know,
we had trouble in that red zone.
Yeah, we did.
Had trouble, man.
First 3 drives, I believe, they went 3 for 3 for touchdowns, and I believe it was 3 or 4. And to me, that was the difference.
Yeah.
You know, you can look at certain plays and certain calls and
right there,
some of the things, but you know, they out-schemed us several times, I thought. I mean, I thought their screen game, as Coach talked about, they ran the screen game. They used their pressure against us. They didn't run the ball worth a crap, but they didn't need to. And they really exploited that soft cover zone. And they, you know, I mean, at the end of the day, it comes down to execution. And they just made more plays. I mean, let's just be honest. They made more plays, and hats off to the Boilermakers. They've been in this role before. We knew what was coming. This was not a trap game. Coach said they had just a better week of preparation than they've had just about any other week. So it's not like Purdue snuck up on us. It wasn't a U of M hangover. And it really came down to execution.
Yeah, execution is always difficult. You know, when you're dealing with 18 to 22-year-olds and they just had a big win. I know you said it wasn't a hangover, but when you look at this team and you look at what was spoon-fed to the Michigan State players, you know, what I didn't realize when we got to West Lafayette, because there was a lot of differences there. It was the new press box, new lights, new beer garden in the south end zone. I mean, they had a lot of stuff that I hadn't seen before, and I realized, like, we hadn't been there since 2014. So that means pretty much no one on that trip had been there before.
That's right. That was Darian Harris's pick to seal the game, 45-31. I believe that was 15. I believe it was 15.
On the road. 15. We played them at home. We played them at home since.
15, you're right.
15
14 was on the
18.
road. 14 was on the road,
But
correct.
on the road, the last time Michigan State's played Purdue there is 2014, which, I mean, that's 7 years. That's a lot of time. I mean, these guys were, I mean, maybe some of them were in diapers then. It was a long time ago, so they don't have a point of reference. And when I say that, I'm saying that most college football teams, you know, they rely on where they've been before. There's guys in that locker room that can sit the younger players down and say, you know what, you know, when you go to Iowa, there's a pink locker room, Pepto-Bismol, get ready for it, so they can anticipate it. The mental preparation is just as important, if not more so important, than the preparation that you have to go through physically to get ready to play a game. But there's no one in that locker room that had any way of prepping for what the Purdue Boilermakers really meant. And, you know, I know hearing it, yeah, they're spoiler makers. Yes, this is what they do. They've done it since 1956 and all that. They did it to Iowa, but not us. Not us, Coach. But as the injuries mount and the pressure gets heavier, the stakes get higher, they end up coming up with another loss. Not another, the first loss of the season. But the good news is, Brian, though, that was in the Western Division, not the East. That was a Western Division opponent in the Big Ten, so it really does nothing.
Well, it still counts for overall record in the Big Ten.
Yeah, overall.
We didn't lose head-to-head. They're on the other. I mean, we're not going to lose a tiebreaker to them.
Right.
Okay, then, and all our goals are still in front of us. I mean, you went out. You're winning the Big Ten. You're going to the college playoffs. It's that simple. It's not that simple, but the math is that simple. But when you look at the way that our defense played and you talk about the third downs, you know, all year we've had a hard time getting off the field on third down, and Purdue exploited that. How do we correct some of that?
Got to get a pass rush. You have to know where the sticks are. That's
right there. Look at that first play right there. We had them dead to rights on third down.
Yeah, you have.
Missed a couple tackles. And, you know, really the story of the game was third down defense. Third down and red zone defense.
Well, this is what Mel Tucker's talking about when he said they're going to look at the film and be sick. That's that play right there. As it happened, I knew. I was sick. I'm sure a lot of people at home were sick. People in the stands were sick. Players as well. The guys that are trying to get the quarterback and get him down, they were sick. It's tough when you see that. And you don't do enough to win the ball game ultimately. Here's K9, you know, doing everything he can. I mean, he still had a great game.
Yeah, and we'll get to him in a second. But you talk about third down, right? You get into that situation where, and we'll talk about the injuries for a minute, right? Do we play a soft cover zone, right? Do we attack them and blitz? And
there was a lot of blitzing happening.
There was a lot of blitzing, and I mean, and they had an answer for everything. They killed us with that crossing route on the blitz. They caught us a couple times on the screen and the blitz. I mean, they caught us in a couple plays where they were able to out scheme us on certain plays.
That O'Donnell, that quarterback, he played.
I mean,
he
can't
game.
move 3 feet to his left or right, but boy, I tell you what, he can spin the ball.
He was in rhythm. That was like Tom Brady rhythm. He's 1, 2, 3, getting rid of the ball. He gets a snap. 1, 2, 3, gone. I mean, the ball was gone like immediately, which frustrates the heck out of defensive linemen.
I hate playing Purdue. I hate playing them in football, and I hate playing them in basketball, to be honest with you. I hate going there. And, I mean, they just give us fits.
You don't like Mackey Arena?
I hate that place. And, I mean, they just give us fits every time, everywhere, any place. I don't care if it's in volleyball. I mean, it's just – that's a tough. We always have a hard time going down there and playing, and either it's basketball or football, you know. But now teams have the blueprints of, you know, all right, Michigan State's defense has been bending and not breaking all year. They broke. They broke. And so if you're Coach Tucker, you know, what corrections are you going to make here to try and stem some of that going forward?
If you're Coach Tucker, you stick to the mantra. You keep chopping, because when you really look at that performance on both sides, Michigan State's versus Purdue's, I think Michigan State may have taken a slight step down in their performance, but Purdue, that was probably the best performance they had all year long, even considering what happened at Iowa when they knocked off the number 2 ranked Hawkeyes. Receivers, the quarterback wasn't as accurate as, you know, he could possibly be. Some balls were behind guys, some balls were high, some balls were low, but everyone was catching the ball, Brian. Everybody. It was a concerted team effort. They were running the routes fast. It's like they went to another level. It's like when they play for the Boilermakers, there's some kind of, you know, I don't know, sanctuary in that locker room that comes down, and they get to a level of focus that you never see out of the Boilermakers. It happened to us in '97. I remember being down there with a young Drew Brees comes out and down by 20 finds a way to win the game ultimately with only 2 minutes and 30 seconds to go. It was crazy. It's happened time and time again. We weren't high ranked at the time, but this is not just an anomaly for Purdue. This is a culture thing for them, just like other teams have and other programs have culture issues. I do not think this is an indictment on this team. As what Coach Mel Tucker said, he still believes in this team. This team is a team that doesn't quit, and they're going to continue to fight to the end. So this is just a learning experience, a bitter one, a bitter pill to swallow, but definitely something that they will learn from in the games ahead, which are big games.
And he said, my opinion of this team doesn't change.
No.
It doesn't change before the game, doesn't change after the game. It's the same. He believes in his players and he believes in his team. And when we talk about where do we go from here, it's on to the next one, right? You have a Maryland team coming in that has an explosive offense that really, you know, is going to do the similar things that Purdue has done. And we have to be ready to play this game, because the worst thing that one loss can turn into is 2 losses in a row.
Yeah.
And coming back after a loss is really, it takes tremendous focus, leadership, and preparation. And these are the days right now, right? As Coach D used to talk about, we got to play for championships in November. So when you watch that film, right, and you're sick to your stomach of how you performed, and you look at you study our tendencies on defense and our coverages and what we play. And, you know, you look at some of the zone coverages we have, some of the different ways that we try and apply pressure, and you see now how you have the blueprints and how you attack us. If you're Maryland, what are you coming out to do on Saturday?
Win. That's what they're going to come to do.
Besides that,
they're going to come out and they're going to scheme. They're going to do the exact same thing that Purdue did. There's no doubt about it, you know. So there's make no bones about it. What you saw Saturday, you're going to get a heavier dose of it this week.
You're going to get it 3 weeks in a row.
Oh, yeah.
And you're going to get it every time. And the
athletes get better and better.
Yeah, because you have Maryland, you have the Buckeyes, you got to go down to Columbus, and you got Penn State. And if you think that their game plans are going to change at all, you're mistaking yourself. This is what teams are going to do to us, and we're going to have to find a way to pressure the quarterback to win those one-on-ones outside, and to be able to make plays and cover people in soft zone coverage and get off the field on third down. Right now, we're last in the country.
Got to get off the field.
Got to get off the field on third down. We're last in the country in pass defense, and, you know, that's got to improve. And there's nothing better to mask a young and inexperienced secondary better than a pass rush.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
If you get after the quarterback.
If you get to the quarterback, it makes the defensive secondary look a lot better. Likewise, sometimes really good, on the inverse of that, really good defensive secondaries can lock down receivers and give that defensive front extra time. But right now, when you look at what happened in the performance at Purdue, neither side was getting there. Purdue was in such a rhythm. They were getting rid of the ball, and the pass rush wasn't there. and there was a lot of lost players in coverage. I mean, guys were falling down, guys were slow to get up. I mean, there's a lot of injuries and miscommunication happening.
A lot of miscommunication. How many blown calls? You see some? I felt from the TV, watching it on TV, I felt there were a couple miscommunication plays, and there's some blown coverages, and that's going to happen when you have a young, you have a young
growing pains.
Yeah, young secondary, and the other team's throwing the ball 55 times. I mean, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
Obviously, you can't let 500. You're not going to win many games allowing a team to have 536 yards passing, but to play for championships in November, what are the keys going forward for us? You look at Pandashuk, right? He's still leading one of the top D linemen in the country,
pass rushers,
and leading in pressures.
Yeah.
And you got to get home. I mean, you just got to find a way to get home. You got to affect the quarterback's rhythm. You got to affect the quarterback's ability to just step up, plant his foot, and throw the football. Because if you don't do that, and you break in the red zone, it'll be long for any defense. I mean, it'll be a long year for any defense, and we've lived off of that.
Yeah, one of the most the best pass rushers that we had in the ball game, Simeon Barrow, was ejected. So you got to deal with that. That was in the second half, so he's not going to be available for the first half of the Maryland game. But there are definite bright spots that happened during the game, but as you know, there's a lot of things that need to be tightened up, and Coach Tucker talked about it in his press conference.
I thought Darius Snow played an outstanding game.
13 tackles.
Yeah, I thought he was all over the field.
Incredible.
Sometimes I don't know if that's a good thing if the back end is making so many tackles. But
No.
I thought he was all over the field.
He was making tackles for loss. I mean, he was everywhere. You could tell he's a Snow. I can tell you that.
Yeah, there's no question.
There's no doubt Darius is a Snow.
I'm going to tell you what about this team that I like. They're just no quit in them. 21-7. They come out 21-14 before half, I believe it was. Second half, they kick off, recover the fumble, punch it in, make it a 21-21 game. They just don't quit. Down 37-21, score, hit the 2-point conversion, 37-29. You got one last chance. Purdue gets the ball back with 5 minutes left. I believe they pop us, catch us in another screen. But you had a chance to make a play, and it was a one-possession game with 5 minutes left, and we just couldn't get off the field on third down.
No, we couldn't. But let's not forget that's a Snow, and why he's a Snow. Who are the Snows that he's related to? Do you remember?
One by the name of Percy, maybe.
Who was that to him?
Is Eric his dad or his uncle?
His dad.
Eric's his dad, I believe.
His dad is Eric Snow.
And his uncle is Percy.
That's right.
So he's got the bloodlines. There's no question about it.
So you're talking about Percy. Percy was an All-American, I think 2-time All-American Lombardi winning linebacker for Michigan State football. And Eric Snow used to play with Sean Respert, man. Fire and Ice. Was a long-time NBA basketball point guard, man. Tough as nails. And this is his offspring right here when you talk about what Darius Snow was able to do. And, yes, I mean, you're talking about stats in the game. And right, look, yes, you have to get off the field on third down. That was one of the biggest holes if you want to look at what happened on Saturday. They could not get off the field. I don't think, the Purdue punter ever came out on the field. I swear, I don't.
Did they punt?
I don't know if they punted.
I don't remember if they punted. But let's go. I mean, look, we're not going to make any excuses here, but we've been blessed and fortunate enough, right? Everybody knows college football is all about depth. It's about having experience, and it's about really being lucky, staying injury-free. Mm-hmm. And now the injuries are beginning to mount up. You're beginning to see, you saw, I believe, Horst didn't make the trip. The tackle sorely missed. Coughlin, the kicker, was hurt during the game. You saw Charles Brantley, who went down.
Slow to get up.
Went down as well.
Hurt. Plays.
Who I believe was out for the year now.
Allegedly.
That's what somebody said. He said on Instagram, maybe, I guess.
Yeah. We don't know the gravity of it until Coach actually says this is what happened. But doesn't look good. You got Beasley, who came back from an injury, and he's been battling to try to get more reps. Naylor
Naylor broke his hand, is out.
No.
I mean, you had Naylor out. You had, you also had, but Panashuk was, he was battling some injuries as well. Came back to play this game. You have Williams, Kimbrough was looked like a sore back. Ron Williams, I believe, didn't start.
Same situation.
Right. I mean, really, you look at your back end, 3 of your 4 corners. There were some injuries, and you got Lyman out, you got Naylor out, you got another D lineman out. Barrow goes out the second half. You might as well call that an injury. For a team that has created tremendous chemistry over the year, right? I mean, 41 new players, and the way they've been able to gel and play together. You look at these injuries now, and they're beginning to mount. And in my eyes, that's the biggest concern that we have going forward.
Yeah, I mean, it is a concern because you don't have the depth, as you just stated. I mean, you don't have the depth to be able to dig deep and go into another. You don't have a bench of 4- and 5-star players yet. Because
Tuck coming.
He sure enough is coming.
They're coming. Get ready.
So it's tough. You got a lot of new guys. You've got guys who are playing above. Let's be honest now. They're playing above what people. Remember that Dennis, what's his name? They are who we thought they were.
Yeah, Dennis
Green,
Vikings coach. Yep.
Denny Green. He said that they are who they thought we were. Now, this team isn't what we thought they were. They're playing above. That is overachieving in a lot of ways. There's guys like K9 who was virtually unknown at Wake Forest, 95th best transfer as ranked by the experts, and now he's in the Heisman Trophy race. So there are guys who are playing out of their mind. Not saying he's not a talented guy. He is talented. But let's not kid ourselves. Michigan State isn't so deep. And the guys in the locker room, they know this. They're not so deep and so talented that it doesn't matter who's playing. It does matter who's playing. And right now, they find themselves in a spot where they need a little bit of, little treatment this week to get back on the track.
So you look at Naylor. Naylor's a huge loss on the outside, right? Because it allows them to put more pressure on Jaden Reed, and then you have Trey Mosley, who's beginning to come into his own. Right, and then you saw Malik Carr, who we thought had a breakout game.
Yeah, against his former team.
Yeah, against his former team. But the plus to injuries is that it helps create depth.
Yes.
We've rolled 2 offensive lines all year. I don't believe we did that this game. There were a line, and we subbed in 1 or 2 guys going out. Who started at left tackle? Was it
left tackle? It was A.J. Curry.
And was it Matt Campbell was on the left side?
No,
or was
not
it same
Matt. It wasn't Carrick. Carrick didn't dress either.
Yeah, Carrick didn't dress either.
No. Yeah, I forget exactly who the left tackle was.
And we got a ton of experience on the line, but when arguably your best tackle is out for the game against the first round edge
Curry
rush.
played left, and then they played the guard, the guy who normally plays in the right guard spot at tackle, and so it's
Purdue's edge rusher, I believe, is a projected first rounder. So you're moving your right tackle over to your left side to block the blind side of the quarterback against a hell of an edge rusher, and it just creates a lot of problems. And so it speaks to your depth issue. When you have 3 or your 4 corners out, when you have your best offensive lineman out, your kicker's gone, your fastest receiver's gone, and you're looking at creating depth in the back end and the secondary. I mean, one thing, like I said earlier, injuries helps create depth because guys that are normally wouldn't be playing are playing now. But this is serious concern going forward. I mean, we have to get healthy moving forward, and I think we don't know how long anybody's out. Coach never talks about injuries, but I'll tell you one thing about Coach. Never makes excuses.
No.
Coach,
Never.
Coach, one thing about Coach Tucker, never ever makes excuses, and I give him credit for that. I don't care if it's injuries. I don't care if it's penalties. I don't care if it's missed calls. I don't care. There's never an excuse coming out of Coach Tucker's mouth, and I gotta applaud him for that.
We're gonna
run that. You got that his interview.
Okay, so this is what I told our team. Okay, we didn't make enough plays. We didn't execute well enough to win the game. They outplayed us. They made more plays than we made, so we got to give them credit. They played a heck of a ball game. Okay, and it's a 24-hour rule for us: win, lose, or draw. Okay, so what we have to do is we have to get on the tape. We have to get the corrections. Okay, we get the corrections, get things fixed. Then we have to have a great week of preparation, and we get ready for Maryland coming into the woodshed on Saturday. All of our goals are ahead of us. All of our goals are still ahead of us. We're going to block out all of the noise. Okay, we're going to circle the wagons. Okay, the most important voices are going to be the voices inside of our building. Okay, and then we're going to go back to work and get ready for Maryland. That's what we got to do. We're going to own it, give those guys credit. Okay, where credit is due. They beat us. Okay, and we need to execute better, at a higher level. And that's our approach. That's what we're going to. That's the approach we're going to take. Okay, going into next week. Period. Point blank. There's nothing more to it. I got these guys back 100%, so they don't have to worry about that. All they have to do is prepare like crazy and get ready for the next game. I don't feel any different about our team now, okay, than I felt before the game. We got a great group of guys who play hard all the way to the end, okay, and that's the type of team we have. That's the identity. They're always going to do that. Okay, we need better execution in all three phases. That's what we have to have, and that's what we're going to work towards this week in practice. So that's what it is. I'll open it up.
Now, how concerned are you about the pass defense, especially you got Maryland and Ohio State coming in now? What do you have to do?
Yeah, we have to tighten some things up, and so that's what we're going to work on, obviously. We gave up too many explosives, and, we were not good in the screen game as well. Getting off the field on third down, and that's not just this week. We've had issues getting off the field before on third down. And so, we're doing a good job first, second down. We get them in third down, and then they convert. Then we end up staying on the field. They change the field position, and then they end up scoring, and we hold them to a field goal. And so those are things that we need to improve upon.
Brantley, Williams, and Lowry all being banged up, how much do you feel like that affected the secondary?
No, I mean, if they're out there, then they're ready to go. I mean, we don't have any excuses, any explanations about anything. We need to play better, period. They weren't the only guys that were out or banged up in the game.
And Coughlin with not he's dressed, but
yep, he's sore and he'll work and he'll be ready when he's ready.
How did the team react when you talked about your message about all the goals? How did the team react their first loss of the season? How did they take it?
Yeah, I mean, everyone, we had really good eye contact, and a lot of guys were nodding their heads. They understand, like this is a pretty aware football team, and guys have been through a lot together, and they understand like we have one loss, okay, and we didn't play well enough to win the game, okay, but we have a lot of football ahead of us, and all our goals are still ahead of us, and so, there's what needs to be done, what's next? That's what's most important.
So what do you think of that? I mean, it's very pointed. It was, 24-hour rule. There's no excuses. All our goals are in front of us. He stood up there. He didn't blame anybody. He gave credit to Purdue. He talked about, that they need to execute better and how they got to correct things. And I thought he handled those comments, post-game comments, pretty well.
Yeah, it's all about the message that, you send to the team and to the fan base and to Spartans at large when you are giving those post-game comments, after speaking and addressing your team. We've been involved in these things in the locker room where coaches have said one thing to the team, and then they go out into the reporters, and they say something a little different than what they said to the team. And that fractures confidence through a program. But with Mel Tucker and another guy, Mark D'Antonio is a guy like that. Very, very solid. The message is the same in the locker room to those kids, those young men, as it is when they're talking, when the lights are on, the cameras are on them, and all those recorders are on them, hanging on every single word. And it's tough. Yes, there's a dream of those in that locker room and obviously the head coach to try to run the table. They wanted to. I mean, like, who wouldn't want to? But it's the ability to be able to bounce back, learn from your mistakes that they will ultimately be judged for and by, in my opinion. Brian, what do you think?
Here's what I think. I think is that when you come out and tell the public exactly what you tell your team in the locker room, you believe it. You believe it, and that's your message to your football team. And it's not coaches speak, because that's exactly what he's telling his team, and that's exactly what he wants them to hear, because he believes it and they believe it. And I appreciate that. And I'll tell you what, he had an interesting comment as well.
Yeah.
About,
you see that? It says, from Coach Mel Tucker, I don't like to talk about bad calls. It's not a part of our culture. We don't like to make excuses about anything. I think that makes your program soft, Brian. I think it gives your coaches and your players a way out. So I really don't like to even talk about it that much. What's your thoughts on that? Because that, to me, was a very finessed, crafted shot at one dude down the road and head coach Jim Harbaugh.
Was it, though?
Oh, based off today's or the events that happened before this particular interview, where Jim Harbaugh,
he's been whining for a week.
But he's still whining. He said today that the Big Ten gave him an apology. That's what he said. He said the Big Ten said that we screwed up.
He's still talking about it.
Yeah, 9 days later.
After the Indiana game, he's still talking about the Big Ten apologizing and all that.
Yeah.
So you believe Coach's comments were directed or...
No, not directed.
Not directed.
No.
Because he believes what he said.
Absolutely.
He absolutely believes that. But...
I'm talking about for us fans.
But I think he was sending a specific message.
Yeah. It makes your program... You see that? I think that it makes your program soft. He didn't say that'll make you soft. It'll make... He's talking about programs. Who else? That's head coach speak. That's what that is.
It's so funny because the guy before him once said, "It's not the coaches, it's the program." Right?
Yes.
And so we don't make excuses about anything. I think that makes your program soft. Think about that. We don't make excuses about anything.
What does anything mean?
I think that makes your program soft.
Does anything have anything to do with calls? It has everything to do with everything. He means nothing. Nothing. Don't make excuses about jack. Nothing.
I'll tell you,
you ready to make the
when I read that and people took it as a shot across the bowl.
Yeah.
I honestly didn't think that was a shot across the. I thought to myself, that's speaking to your team, to the media. That's how I felt. Now we're not going to make excuses.
And coaches.
And your coaches. And we're not gonna because they're asking about Kimbrough's roughing penalty, even that simultaneous catch that there was a fourth down where it looked simultaneous.
I got so many calls, text messages about that particular call, that play with Jaden Reed and the player from Purdue came in and intercepted the ball, and they said there was a simultaneous catch. A tie goes to the offensive player over and over and over again. Like I wish they would at least reviewed it, because we had no idea. Those that were there live and in real time, we had no visual on that. We saw the bang-bang play happen, and that was it.
I think it makes your program soft. I think it gives your coaches and your players a way out. Think about that.
Look, I like
Think
that.
about that. 8 days later,
look at that.
he's still talking about calls.
He don't like that. He don't like that.
And he's Lansing. He's still talking about calls. All right? Here's Mel Tucker goes down to Purdue and acknowledges their shortcomings. Doesn't make any excuses about injuries. Doesn't make any excuses about penalties.
Because I'm going to tell you, there were some bad calls, man.
I mean, but they're part of the game. They're part of the game.
He didn't want to bring them up.
They're part of the game. And when you give up 536 yards passing, let's just call it like what it is. You probably don't deserve to win.
Call a spade a spade.
You do.
You have to.
And our young men battled and played hard. But those comments by Coach Tuck being 2-0 against that school down the road, I guess that was a message sent.
Oh, now it's growing on you.
I guess that
there
was
you go.
I guess that was a message.
See? I'm proud of you. I gotta say that right now. I'm actually proud of this guy.
I mean, you're.
Look at that. Look at Harbaugh. What's he saying? What's he saying right now? What is he saying right there?
He's complaining about that call in East Lansing. I mean,
I don't know, but he's not happy.
But as the leader of the program, right? When you get up there and you make excuses and the tape don't lie.
The tape don't lie.
And the Big Ten told us there were mistakes and there were errors. Those are all part of the game. When you're talking about it 8 days later, after you just beat another opponent, somebody's in your head.
Living in your head.
Somebody
dancing around.
Somebody
dancing around
is living rent free in your head.
That's why the statement, those comments made by one Mel Tucker, are so much more beautiful.
They absolutely are. Is that
because I guarantee you, Jim Harbaugh read that. If he hadn't heard it, it has been told.
Every coach in America has a 24-hour rule. Every coach in America, 24-hour rule. 8 days later, Jim Harbaugh is still talking about calls in East Lansing. 9 days later. My apologies. 9 days later. And you're going to tell me that we don't live in their head?
Hey, somebody's living in somebody's head.
So it's just very, very interesting to me that this would come up. And
hey, man, I think they got to come back to Michigan State next year. Is that true? Somebody told me that.
Are they? Are they coming to East Lansing?
So. I think they got to come back next year.
I got to buy my tickets. I got to buy my tickets from now. We got two. Oh, because they got two in a row.
Yeah, they got two in a row. They even it up. Oh, boy.
We're going to come back. Are you positive about that?
Hey, Google.
Are you positive?
Google.
How about we focus on Maryland and we worry about Maryland? And we do that. How about we don't worry about calls?
Man, we could do that. Let me tell you something. What we do has no effect on the game anymore. Before,
what are you talking
you had to
about?
Make sure you get the right. You better get that Mike line back. You better make sure you get the three technique, Brian and Jason.
You mean to tell me you don't affect the game?
I mean, listen.
You're not an emotional leader up in the booth.
Hey, look, man. They play it out, and all I do with George is tell people what is going on. That is it. So when there's big plays and exciting things, and I get excited, it's because the players on that field are doing the work, man. The coaches are making the calls, not us.
I mean, I'll tell you, I get such a great visual when George says left to right on your radio. And I'm just imagining, wow, left to right on my radio.
Left to right across your radio.
What a legend, George. We got to have George on here once.
We're going to get George on here. He's excited about it.
So we exit Purdue, and we're talking about K9 now. And K9's Heisman chances. Did K9 hurt his chances after the Purdue game?
I don't think so at all.
No?
Not one bit did he hurt himself. No, man. He still had 146 yards, 23 carries.
So they had a nice video about him. ESPN.
Come on, man. Yeah, this kid is still – he's still in there. He still leads the nation in rushing per game, overall total yards, touchdowns. I mean, the guy – how did he lose his chances? Because he lost the game? This team lost one game. He still performed. It's different if you're talking about K9 gets 12 yards on 16 carries, and he couldn't.
Does that have volume?
He couldn't outrun, anyone. He still looked really, really, really good.
So he had 146 yards.
He waiting for the big time, man.
146 yards rushing. He had 1 or 2 touchdowns.
He's got a show out this week coming up. I think that this is one of those mediocre performance type of deals. Like it's an indifferent thing. He's got to.
I mean, he still ran for 150 yards and a touch.
Yeah.
How's that mediocre?
That's not. I'm not talking about that's a mediocre. I'm talking about going forward. I thought we turned the page to Maryland. I'm saying it with Maryland. Yeah, absolutely. He's good. I'm talking about Purdue. He's good. Maryland. What he has to do is something similar to Purdue, maybe a little less, somewhere in that 100 yard range, couple touchdowns.
You got to give me $150. You got to give me $150, 2 touches, because right now
he got to show out at Ohio State.
He's got 340 yards rushing right now. He's 4th in the nation in all-purpose yards. He's 3rd in the nation with 15 rushing touchdowns, 16 touchdowns total. I believe against Maryland, you got to give me 150 and 2 TDs. If you make it 3, cherry on top. But absolutely unequivocally, you want to bring home the hardware, you have to go into Columbus and run the table, take over that show.
What does he got to do in Columbus?
I'll tell you, if he walks into Columbus, if he walks into Columbus and he has anywhere near over 150 yards and
150.
If he can hit 150, if he can hit 200 and get 3 touchdowns on national television.
That's a tall order, bro.
And Michigan State walks out of there with a win.
Oh, man, come on, man.
He will win the Heisman Trophy. There's no question about it.
He's running away with it if he does that.
Have we ever seen a back like that in our lifetime at Michigan State?
No.
We've had some great ones. I'm talking about a combination of burst, speed, acceleration, stop, start, shift. I've never seen a back able to bounce, jump cut. He's
the fastest at every one of those things you just said.
He's a combination of Le'Veon, Edwin Baker, Javon Ringer. He's got all those. His ability to, the breakaway
power,
speed,
like
power,
TJ, durability.
He does have durability. Carries the ball. He very rarely, I don't want to knock on wood, very rarely fumbles. I think that was his first one of the year.
Yeah.
And I'm telling you, what a steal in the portal he was. Credit to Coach Tucker and their staff for how they were able to bring him in and to convince him Michigan State is the place to come, that you're going to be in the type of offense in which we're going to showcase you. And we're going to put you on display. And I'm telling you, as good a football player as he is, he's a nicer young man.
He really is. He really is. You know, you just like to see good things happen to good people. You just really do. You know, and he's got 3, 4, maybe 5 more games in the green and white. In my opinion, you know, this is something that it's a pleasure to see, a pleasure to be a part of and witness for all Spartans everywhere. I think that if you're a Big Ten football fan, period, this is a treasure to watch a guy play the way that Kenneth Walker III plays.
So we go into Columbus, and he has a strong showing in Columbus, and we end the year hypothetically 10-2. Does he win the Heisman?
A strong showing in Columbus.
Yeah. 220 yards rushing, 3
Whoa.
touchdowns.
Whoa.
Hey, I'm just telling you, we end 10. Usually the Heisman goes to the best player on the best team, one of the top.
So I think his competition is going to be Bryce Young, the guy from
Vegas
Alabama.
has him at plus 150.
I know, that was last week. I don't know about this week.
And I haven't seen the numbers lately, yeah.
So, you know, we got to look at the quarterback from Alabama is always going to be there, whoever that guy may be.
Whoever, right?
Whoever. It's a brand. And, you know, also the quarterback down in Ole Miss, putting up some big numbers, but they're not winning a lot, not on the same level. So him getting invited to New York is a huge deal.
I think him getting invited to New York, I'm not going to call it a lock, but I think if we
still got games to play.
Yeah, we got a long way to go here. We got 3 games left, 2 that will be marquee on national television where he'll be able to showcase himself, and 2 showings that are worthy. We're not talking 5 touchdown performance like he did against that team down the road, but two solid showings. He'll end up in New York. 1 blowout performance in Columbus and a victory in Columbus. In my opinion, he will take home the Heisman.
Hey, man, it's time to turn the page, man, because we got to get up out of here, man. I'm going to give you my Nostradamus right now.
Oh, we got to teleport. We're flying.
We got to get out of here.
We got to finish that Kansas game. Kansas Michigan State game.
We got a big game tonight, and I'm going to tell you, what Michigan. You will see inside the locker room on that court side somewhere in Madison Square Garden tonight. That is for sure lock. Or
lock
Nostradamus. Put it down. Write it down. You're going to see us in a few seconds. Turn your TV after this broadcast.
I'm going to make this prediction. Kenneth Walker, is it the 9th or the 5th after the amount of touchdowns that he scored against Michigan? Or the 3rd? Kenneth Walker the 3rd. Kenneth Walker the 3rd. You heard it here first. Will win the Heisman.
Oh,
there you have it.
he will win it.
He will win the Heisman. Ladies
We're
and
gonna play
gentlemen,
this back later.
thank you for joining us.
Helicopters outside.
We appreciate you. I am
Let's go.
Brian Musalam, your co-host on Inside the Locker Room, alongside my co-host, Jason Strayhorn. Good night, everybody. Go green.
Good night. God bless. We're out.